The author says, section. The obligations of the prayer are 17. Question for you. When he says obligations, what does he mean? The author said, section. The obligations of the prayer are 17. When he says obligations, what does he mean? Integrals, correct. The integrals of the prayer are 17. The first is the intention. You know, the place of the intention is the heart. If the prayer were obligatory, it is obligatory to intend to perform that prayer and to specify its obligation when one is pubescent. Meaning, if it's an obligatory prayer, then your obligation is to intend the obligation. You must aim for the obligation in your intention. Yani, fulfilling an obligation is a target of your intention. So he said you have to intend the obligation if the prayer is obligatory when you're pubescent. Let me make sure this English is matching the Arabic properly. فإن كانت الصلاة فرضا, if the prayer were obligatory, وجب قصد فعلها, it is obligatory to intend to perform that prayer. Yes. Meaning, number one, you have to make the intention, you have to actually aim for the prayer in particular. So your intention would be, now I pray Dhuhr, now I pray Maghrib, now I pray Fajr, etc. To intend that prayer. To intend the performance, to intend the performance. وَجَبَ قَصْدُ فِعْلِهَا. It is obligatory to intend to perform that prayer and to specify its obligation. Okay, so there's something missing a little bit in the English. He says in the Arabic, وَجَبَ قَصْدُ فِعْلِهَا, it is obligatory to intend its performance, the performance of that prayer. Meaning you have to intend the act of prayer. And he says, وَتَعْيِينُهَا, and specifying that prayer in your intention. That's when you're saying in your heart, Dhuhr, Maghrib, Fajr, or whatever obligatory prayer it is. وَنِيَّةُ الْفَرْضِيَّةِ مِنَ الْبَالِغِ, and to specify its obligation when one is pubescent. Okay. So that's three things, and that's what we learned in the summary of obligatory knowledge. When you are dealing with an obligatory prayer, there are three things that you need to keep in mind for your intention. One is performance, doing the prayer. Two is specifying that prayer, whichever one it is you are praying. And three is to also intend an obligation if you are pubescent. If you're not pubescent, then your intention would be to do what appears to be an obligation. If it were a timed voluntary prayer like witr, that means the prayer is based on a time. Please repeat the three. Yes. One, it is obligatory to intend its performance and specify that prayer and to specify its obligation when one is pubescent. Those are the three. Yeah, I mean, it's easier probably than the words might suggest. When you see all those words, you might think, "Oh, this intention is technical and complicated." No, no, it's so easy. In one instant, when you say in your heart, "Now I pray obligatory such and such prayer," that's it. You did all three. He said, if it were a timed voluntary prayer, like witr, what's the time of witr, please? Tell me the time of the witr prayer, please. 5, 4. After praying Isha, correct. Until 3, 2, 1, until Fajr. If you have delayed your witr all the way to the end of the night, then once you fear Fajr, pray witr. Like, you know how when you are fasting and you're afraid Fajr is about to be in, so you stop eating? Like that. When you are afraid Fajr is about to be in, pray witr if you haven't prayed it already. So if it were a timed voluntary prayer like witr, or one that has a reason, an occasion if you want, like the eclipse, that means no particular time, no scheduled time. So some prayers have a scheduled time. You can time them, Yani. You can make a schedule for them. And some prayers, you cannot schedule them. Yani. When I say you can't schedule them, it means, yeah, you can make an agreement with the community. We're going to pray the rain prayer tomorrow. I'm not talking about like that, though. You didn't know, though, before that you're going to pray rain prayer because it doesn't have a special time. Or if it were said, there's a prediction of an eclipse and we want to pray the eclipse prayer tomorrow, I'm not talking about that when I say it doesn't have a special time or it's not timed or you can't make a schedule for it. It's not based on time. It's based on some occurrence or occasion. If it were an unrestricted voluntary prayer, so wait, if it were a timed voluntary prayer, or one that has a reason, yani, if you want, an occasional voluntary prayer, occasional with the meaning that it's based on an occasion. If it were a timed voluntary prayer or an occasional voluntary prayer, it's obligatory to intend to perform that prayer and to specify that prayer. So then you have two things. It would be obligatory to perform that prayer and to specify that prayer. That's because it has a special time or a special reason. So if the prayer is obligatory, you have three things to observe in your intention. If the prayer is not obligatory, you have two things to observe in your intention. If that non-obligatory prayer has a special time or a special reason. Those two things are intending to perform that prayer, yani intending a performance, and two, to specify that prayer. And that's just as equally as easy. So you simply say, now I intend to pray witr prayer. Now I intend to pray eclipse prayer. Now I intend to pray rain prayer, etc. then you are intending the performance and the specific prayer. It's not obligatory, so you don't have to make an intention to fulfill an obligation. And if it were an unrestricted voluntary prayer, it is only obligatory to intend to perform it. Unrestricted voluntary prayer, that means a voluntary prayer without a time or a reason. So if we go backwards, then we can say there is a such thing as an unrestricted voluntary prayer. This one requires nothing more than intending to do it. Meaning, in your heart you say, now I pray. And then you can pray 2 rakats. But if this voluntary prayer had a special time or a reason, then you have 2 aspects to intend. You have to intend not only the performance, but also specify that prayer. And if the prayer were obligatory, then you have 3 aspects to observe in your intention. Not merely performance and not merely specifying the prayer, but also intending the obligation. So 3 levels here. Any question here? I believe we did cover that when we first started our lessons and we were just writing on the board. The second is the takbir of ihram. Ihram, just like in Hajj, it's the ihram for the prayer though. So the ihram makes some things for you haram until you get out of that ihram. That's why when you pray, you can't talk to anyone, you can't play, you can't eat or drink. All of that's haram for you, though it's not normally haram. It's not normally haram to talk to someone or to play or to eat or drink. The ihram for the prayer forbids you. Just like in Hajj, the ihram for the Hajj will forbid you if you are a woman from wearing niqab on your face and wearing gloves. If you are a man, will forbid you from covering your head and wearing stitched clothing, and forbid you from perfume and hunting and other things. That's the ihram for Hajj or Umrah. This is the ihram for the prayer. The second integral is the takbir of ihram, which is to say, Allahu Akbar. Yani that's the dhikr specified for initiating the prayer, or sanctioned. That's the legally sanctioned dhikr for initiating the prayer. We say, it is sunnah to start your good deeds with mentioning Allah, such as by saying Bismillah or Alhamdulillah, unless the action already has a specified dhikr for commencement, like the prayer. In this case, you don't start praying by saying Bismillah or Alhamdulillah. You start praying by saying Allahu Akbar. It is valid to say Allahu Akbar with an extra lam or L. Allahu Akbar is valid because still a takbir. وَيَجِبُ and it is obligatory that the intention be simultaneous with the entire takbir. That's a saying in the Shafi'i school. That the intention lasts the duration of the takbir. How long does takbir last? Allahu Akbar. So that's about a second. Or a second and a little bit more. A few milliseconds. A second and a few milliseconds more, maybe. Allahu Akbar. Or just 2 seconds at the most. Subhanallah. It is obligatory that the intention be simultaneous with the entire takbir. That's a saying in the Shafi'i school. Another saying in the Shafi'i school is that the intention has to be considered as at the same time. Has to be considered, normally considered that it was at the same time as the takbir, in such a way that is counted that a commoner, has intended while saying the takbir. So according to that, it's not a condition for the intention to last for the entire duration of the takbir, and rather it's enough for the intention to exist at some moment during the takbir. So those are two sayings in the Shafi'i school. Either your intention lasts the whole duration of the takbir, or your intention needs to just be existing at some point inside of the takbir, while the takbir is going on, that is. I think that's clear. Can one elongate the takbir? Yes. But it's not sunnah to elongate these dhikrs in the prayer, because there's not a reason for doing so. So it's better just to say Allahu Akbar as opposed to Allahu Akbar. That's not better, the long one. And likewise, it's better to end your prayer like this: Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And it's not better to end your prayer like this: Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Because there's no need for that. It's like saying, in other words, it's useless. In terms, it's the elongation that's useless, not the dhikr itself. The elongation has no point for it. But it might be when a person is making his takbir, he's establishing his intention. That's why it's stretching. Allahu Akbar, for example, this is valid. Some people do find it challenging to say the takbir and the intention at the same time. What do the Shafi'is say about that? They say, but it's not difficult though. They say it's easy. So that's what they say. Even one time, one brother was asking me, he said, isn't that difficult though? I said, the Shafi'i said it's easy. So he said, oh, okay. But if it is difficult for someone, he can take by the Maliki school, which is that if you have an intention a short time before you start, it's valid. Like the fact that you stood up there to pray. For them, this is establishing your intention. And you're going to say Allahu Akbar because that's what you stood there for. We talked about this before. Like the one who's making his intention while he's taking a ghusl. Why he got in the shower was because you wanted to take the ghusl, even if, according to the Malikis, even if at the moment the water hit your body, you didn't say, now I make ghusl. It didn't even cross your mind. For the Malikis, this is still valid. Your intention is valid. So for the one who truly finds difficulty in the Shafi'i madhab here, let him take by the Maliki madhab. Okay. Any question? I see I have some bullets here under number 4. Let me change what I have under number 1 to bullets like those. The third is standing in the prayer if it is obligatory and one is able. Yes. When is standing for the prayer obligatory? When it is obligatory, when the prayer is obligatory and you are able. Those two. If those two conditions are met, then you must stand. 1, the prayer is obligatory. 2, you're able to stand. So if either one of those two is missing, then you don't have to stand. 1, if the prayer is not obligatory, you don't have to stand even if you're able. 2, if you are unable to stand, you don't have to stand even though the prayer is obligatory, because you're not able to. Then once you are unable to, that goes to another rule. A rule proven by the saying of Allah, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not charge a soul but with its capability. This proves a religious rule, not a mental rule, a religious rule. The religious rule is there is no accountability with inability. No accountability with inability. Accountability and inability do not go hand in hand. That's a religious rule, not a mental rule. Meaning, it's not mentally impossible that Allah would make you obligated to do something that you're unable to do. It's not mentally impossible. It is religiously impossible that Allah would make you obligated to do something that you're unable to do. So if He willed to make you obligated to fly, to levitate, uh, to swim underwater for 2 hours without taking a breath, if He willed to make that obligatory, it would be obligatory despite your inability. But He does not, because He told us He doesn't, not because it's impossible. As for the sunnah prayer, you can sit while praying it, even if able to stand. But then you only have half of the reward of the one who stands. And for the voluntary prayer, you may pray laying down, even if you're able to stand or sit. But then you would have half of the reward of the one who prays sitting. So if my math is right, that means a quarter of the reward of the one who prays standing. Why is it like this? Because remember, Allah made it easier to do the voluntary deeds than to do the obligatory deeds. The obligatory deeds are, if you accept this word, stricter, more strict. The voluntary deeds are easier. Why? So that you will not be discouraged. Rather, so that you will be encouraged to do it a lot. So that you have less of an excuse in yourself to not do the voluntary deeds. If the traveler had to get down off of his animal to pray sunnah prayer, then he's not going to pray the sunnah prayers. Or if he had to face the Qibla only, then he wouldn't travel. Or he won't face, either he won't travel or he won't pray the sunnah prayers. So Allah gave him a facility, a convenience to be able to pray and travel at the same time. That's for sunnah prayers, not obligatory prayer. For the obligatory prayer, you must stop your journey. Pause, pull over, get down, face the Qibla, stand and pray if you are able to. Then resume your journey. Let's stop here. And review, by the way, review. And make sure actually review from the beginning. It's going to be so good for you. And review ahead of time too. Read ahead. It's going to be so good for you. Some people, they came to Shaykh Abdullah requesting, taking this book or that book, and he told them, memorize it first and then come back to me. So they would memorize it and then come back to him. And this is very smart position on the, a very smart thing for the Shaykh to do. Because number one, for him to memorize it first means he's really has a very good preparation for the lesson. So when the Shaykh teaches him, he will be so primed for the lesson. He actually memorized the text in the first place. It will be so easy for him to take in the information now. And number two, if he memorized the text first as a condition, means he really was dedicated. He truly had the dedication. He wants to take this. Alhamdulillah, brothers and sisters, may Allah reward you. You have been consistent. You have been consistent. Alhamdulillah. That's amongst the most rewardable of deeds. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam, is ma dawama, that which was consistent, even if it's a little bit. That's in the hadith. What is consistent, even if little? This is the best of deeds, the consistent deed, even if little.